Welcome to Goonie's World. My name is Goonie, also known as Colin, and it's 2025, and I am here with Meanie, also known as Ryan.
Happy New Year!
And Johnny Farrow, also known as Sean.
Happy New Year.
And Lunicorn, also known as Lynn.
Hello and Happy New Year. Woohoo!
Yeah, Happy New Year. But I just wanted to say we are recording this sometime before 2025.
What?
So in case it's inappropriate to say Happy New Year, I just wanted to get that out there because you never know. It could the world could be having some horrible incident, like people could be dying by the millions, and it would be like Happy New Year. It'd be totally not cool to say that. So you never know.
It's that had never occurred to me that we do this, several weeks in advance. But there could be a horrible nuclear fucking holocaust in right before the New Year, and then we're just like, Happy New Year, everybody.
Who cares about all the people
really
dying? We're playing.
We're gonna party like it's 2024.
Yeah. Party like it's 24. Wow. Well, I would say Happy New Year anyway, because what can you do? Gotta smile and face the dark new world. Yeah. But I will have hope for the future until proven otherwise.
I have hope.
Because what am I going to do about it? Barricade myself inside my house? I mean, I'm going to be one of the first to go. So, let's try to live each day in the meantime.
Well, as long as it's not a zombie apocalypse, I might survive for a while. But if it's a zombie apocalypse, I'm dead the first day. I'm like nutty. I'm just going to board up my window until they come and get me. Yeah. I don't have a shotgun to shoot zombies in the head. Perhaps that's what I should ask for Christmas for.
You know what I have?
Year.
I have a replica Highlander Scottish Claymore MacLeod broadsword. That's I mean, it won't be effective, but I'm going to look awesome while I'm
be like the Midwest Michonne.
That's right, Midwest Michonne.
But well, I don't know. I couldn't survive an apocalypse. I might be able to survive for a while if I was dropped into a generic fantasy world, like the world of Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah. There have been a lot of episodes of Goonies World, and we have never played Dungeons and Dragons. We played some like retro clones and other fantasy games. We never played D&D.
Well, and no other podcast has ever played D&D before. We're the first to do it. We're trailblazers.
Yeah. Really?
It's nobody. I mean, D&D. Nobody's even ever heard of it. It's just like it's so fucking underground. Like,
and we may never play D&D again.
It's so weird
because of the apocalypse.
Yeah. I love old D&D. I don't even care.
Well, Len, let's all have a little tavern talk before we start. Let's sit down in the tavern. You can hear it now. Hey, here, have a drink. And Len, tell us about the first time you played D&D. You said you love old D&D.
I do.
What's your earliest D&D memory? I mean, what was your...
My earliest D&D memory, I can't remember. I think I was either in 6th grade or 7th. My sister was in 9th. She's 3 years ahead of me, so that made me in 6th grade, right? I can't math. Anyway, though I do have a degree in physics.
I know you have a degree in physics and you can't math.
And I can't math. Yeah, it's true. I can calculus.
You're an idiot.
Why don't you just stop showing how dumb you are and tell the story?
Okay, so anyway, very unlikely people that I played my first D&D game with. We had big snowstorm and snow days, and my sister, the head cheerleader, was dating her football player jock boyfriend at the time, and he brought his books and his die and everything over and came down the hill and we played at my house the very first time, me and a jock and a cheerleader. I had no idea it was a nerd game. I had no idea of it. I just know that I had a blast. It was so much fun. I was hooked from the get-go. And, yep, that was the original D&D with the confusing Thaco.
Which we will explore in great detail over the next several episodes. But, Ryan, what about you?
Obviously, I didn't know that we were going to be having this tavern talk until you mentioned it in the green room right before we got on, and I've been trying to remember the first time I played D&D, and I honestly can't remember. I know I think the first game I played was probably, it was all TSR stuff, because we did Gamma World and Star Frontiers, and then we discovered GURPS, and I totally nerded out on GURPS.
Me too.
Because I was like, oh my gosh, it's not just this one setting. You could just do anything. And so, and at some point I did get into D&D, and it may be the first time I actually played it. Because I was getting into it right around the second edition, and they had those, you remember, like the brown paperback,
little
class
handbooks,
with the supplements and stuff, and I had like
thief book, special fighter book, I
had like a whole bunch of those. And
those
I just they were kind of like GURPS, like the GURPS Magic and GURPS Cyberpunk and all those, they were sort of like supplementary, and I just liked reading them and learning about all the weird subclasses and little specializations and whatnot you could do. But I don't know that I actually ever played the system until the first Gonan's World.
Wow. Which would have been, about 2000? Yeah,
99, 2000,
yeah. Which is when we started playing together. Well, what about you? Would that have been the same for you, Colin, or did you play before that?
Yes. So, unlike Ryan, I will always remember my first time. And it was, I was probably like 20. And we were down there in the basement. I made this joke before. But, we were down in the basement. The candles were all lit. Johnny Farrow was the dungeon master, and he was so gentle. And it was my very first time, and he made it very special for me.
Oh God, was that in John and Dez's basement?
That was in John and Dez's basement. Shout out to John and everybody else who was in that basement at the time.
Yeah, I was not expecting all those other people to join in for my special moment, but it was magical.
No, that campaign was crazy. There were like 6 or 8 people playing, and then there were like everybody else who was hanging out in that house, getting up to God knows what, was kind of like spectating almost. There'd be like people sitting on the stairway watching the game and hanging out during it.
And then on the upstairs above, there was like a LAN party going on generally while we were playing.
It was Nerdvana, really, for a while there.
It really was.
Yeah. Now, add some rock and roll and some shady business, and it was,
a dual DM and a DM and a DM fight. We won't get into that, but
no. But we did have a dual DM situation going on for a while, which was kind of cool. With a large party, we could split up. If we split up the party, sometimes we would go in separate rooms, literally, and that was the first time we all played D&D together. At that time, we were playing AD&D, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons.
Second edition, I think. Yeah.
No, it was first.
Was it not?
Yeah,
was it first?
Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. And we are now tonight playing Basic Dungeons and Dragons, the 1981 revision, edited by Tom Moldsbay. This was my first role-playing game. I had seen ads for it in a back of comic books, and I could tell it was some kind of terribly mysterious game that might unlock some more sophisticated way to quote-unquote play, and I mean like narrative play like kids do with action figures or adopting roles and running around the yard. I was in 5th grade or so, and I was realizing that kind of play was kind of like slipping away from me. Like, to my horror, I realized that. I remember trying to play with this like scout walker, from Return of the Jedi with the legs, and I was moving around the table because I just got it, and I was like, oh man, I'm just playing with a toy here. I'm like I was starting to outgrow it, and I hated it. But there's something about these advertisements in the back of Marvel's Conan and DC's The Warlord comics. I didn't read superhero comics, but like the fantasy comics they had. But I thought there was something about that game that might provide some kind of like legitimizing framework for play that would satisfy, for at least a little longer, if not into adulthood. And I probably had also heard media reports like James Dallas Egbert, the Dungeon Master, and the whole Satanic Panic. I'm not sure how much attention I paid to them, but
my aunt was big on that train when she heard about it. I told my cousin about it, and my aunt, she flipped her lid. I think she called my parents.
Well, this was pretty early, really. This is like 81, 82. And the age difference between some of us now is not that big a deal. But the time I'm talking about, Goonie was 1. And I was already at the age where I was starting to maybe start playing D&D. But my dad took me to what was then the Premier Mall, the Independence Center, to a place called Hobby Haven. And he got me this D&D set, the famous red box with the iconic cover by Earl Otis, the Thomas Hart Benton of fantasy art. But it would be like a year or two before I actually understood how play was conducted. I'd never seen an example. I had no frame of reference. It was hard for me to infer how it really worked. But I read the book, and I read the classic dungeon module B2, Keep on the Borderlands, which we're going to play in this series. And anytime I had money or there was a gift opportunity, I'd get a D&D book. And kind of like Ryan was talking about, I didn't even play yet. I was just geeking out on it, and imagining what it would be like. Although my little brother was subjected to many misguided, first attempts and tries. But the first time I really ever played D&D, and it was this red box, I was also the dungeon master, and it was at Boy Scout camp in a tent at night because we weren't allowed to play it because some parents didn't like it. And I don't think the Boy Scouts had an official stance against it, but it was just not something that we needed to spend our time doing. But we were playing by flashlight, and there was some ambient firelight coming, into the tent. And all I remember about it was that the monster I used was lepers. I mean, of all the choices I had all these lepers trying to touch the people, and they were getting backed out onto the end of a dock and hoping there would be a boat. That's all I remember. But again, I was hooked for life. I think that would have been the summer of 83 by then. And of course, I would move on to more sophisticated systems like GURPS and Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay and whatnot. But I owe a lot to that little red box. And the module that came in that box, as I said, was the Keep on the Borderlands. And in some ways, it's sort of the prototype of a classic campaign setting, although it has its detractors out there. But your classic settlement, wilderness, and dungeon situation. To me, it was kind of like a blueprint of how you played it, and for a lot of other people. And when I say a lot of other people, this adventure sold through the box it was in 750,000 copies a year for several years in a row in the 80s. So the law of averages would suggest that at least one, and probably some, of our listeners have played or read this module. Of course, everyone's interpretation is a little different, and we're often somewhat irreverent and go our own way on Goonies World. So who knows what our Keep on the Borderlands will end up like. But that is what we're going to play tonight. So if you guys are ready, I will rely on an aging memory and with shockingly little preparation, jump right back home to the world of Dungeons and Dragons. Okay. The realm of mankind is narrow and constricted. Always the forces of chaos press upon its borders, seeking to enslave its populace, rape its riches, and steal its treasures. If it were not for a stout few, many in the realm would indeed fall prey to the evil which surrounds them. Yet there are always certain exceptional and brave members of humanity, as well as similar individuals among its allies, dwarves, elves, and halflings, who rise above the common level and join battle to stave off the darkness which would otherwise overwhelm the land. Bold adventurers from the realm set off for the Borderlands to seek their fortune. It is these adventurers who, provided they survive the challenge, carry the battle to the enemy. Such adventurers meet the forces of chaos in a testing ground where only the fittest will return to relate the tale. Here, those individuals will become skilled in their profession, be it fighter or magic user, cleric or thief. They will be tried in the fire of combat, those who return hardened and more fit. True, some few who do survive the process will turn from law and good to serve the masters of chaos, but most will remain faithful and ready to fight chaos wherever it threatens to infect the realm. You are indeed members of that exceptional class, adventurers who have journeyed to the keep on the Borderlands in search of fame and fortune. Of course, you are relatively inexperienced, but you have your skills and a heart that cries out for adventure. You have it in you to become great, but you must gain experience and knowledge and greater skill. There's much to learn, and you're willing and eager to be about it. Each of you has come with everything which could possibly be given you to help. Now you must fend for yourselves. Your fate is in your hands, for better or worse. Ahead, up the winding road, atop a sheer-walled mount of stone, looms the Great Keep. Here, at one of civilization's strongholds between the good lands and the bad lands, you will base yourselves and equip for forays against the wicked monsters who lurk in the wilds. Somewhere nearby, amidst the dark forests and tangled fens, are the caves of chaos, where fell creatures lie in wait. All this you know, but before you dare adventure into such regions, you must become acquainted with the other members of your group, for each of your lives will depend on the ability of the others to cooperate against the common foe. Now, before you enter the grim fortress, is the time for introductions and an exchange of information. For fate seems to have decreed that you are to become an adventurous band who must pass through many harrowing experiences together on the path which leads towards greatness. So, as you guys walk up the narrow rocky track towards the keep on the Borderlands, you can introduce yourselves to each other. You just met, but you can tell already you're fated to become a band of brothers and or sisters. Although you were all each of a different racial makeup. So, let's start with you, Colin, because you're the biggest. I know that. I'll let you introduce yourself to your friends first. In fact, you guys should just start role-playing. I dump you into the world.
Yeah, so, my name is, Dudley Gruff. That's my given name. I'm wanting all of you to call me Raw Dog, because it sounds more impressive that way. But, yeah, I'm a fighter, as you can see. But, who are you? Isn't it past your bedtime, little boy?
No, I don't think it is. But you know, that's rather rude of you to say. Even, I'm an adult. I'm a grown man.
You're not a grown man. You're a little tiny boy, and I don't like children. They just, I mean, I've got lots of children running around, probably, without a father. That's why I call myself Raw Dog. Yeah, because I don't like to wear, sheep intestines on my willy. And, but those little children are better off without me, because I'm no good. But, I don't like to have no tagalongs, you know. I don't know, what you are. You look like a little boy to me.
Well, I think that's fine, and I respect that opinion. But I'm an adult. But I'm a halfling, you see, and yeah. Well, so I'm only like 3 feet high, but I've got a heart bigger than my whole body, really.
Okay, halfling, that explains it, all right.
Yeah. My name's Cosmo, and you said you're Raw Dog.
Yeah, I'm Raw Dog.
Ooh, that sounds dangerous. You look like you're good in a fight.
I'm the best in a fight. You wanna keep me around close.
Well, that's good because I'm not very good at fighting, but I'm good at being sort of quick and sneaky and very friendly because I'm a very nice person, you know.
Well, it's good to you. You're good at something. I was wondering what you could bring to the table. I guess you can sneak into little small spaces and stuff like that.
Yeah, I can't bring much to the table, but I could fit under it really easy.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
And so we got this really tall, pointy-eared person over here that I don't know very well. I haven't met yet.
Hi, I'm Emeleth Starstorm, and obviously I am an elf. I bring much to the table. Just my mere presence is enough to bless both of
thank
you
you.
and anyone who comes in contact with me. Not only am I an excellent fighter and bow person, but I can also do spells.
I think those are called archers.
I'm quite impressive, yes. Yes, very impressive.
Yeah, you're putting me to sleep. I'll just say that.
Well, yes, that's the calmness of my voice. Yes, it's not because I'm boring. It's because I have a very soothing voice, and many can be put to sleep by my somnolent song.
Well, you probably had like 200 years to figure it out and get all calm.
That's true. That's true.
Now, I will point out, elf in this system, elf is a class. You know, you're raised as a class. So dwarf is a class, halfling's a class. And elves are essentially fighter magic users. And much like in the Tolkien-esque elves that these are clearly based on, although Gygax elves tend to be a little shorter than average instead of taller, they're basically better. Yeah. They're basically better than everyone else at everything, I think.
And they know it.
Yes, we are.
Also, Lynn's character, what did you say your name was again? I didn't catch it.
Emeleth?
Emeleth is wearing plate armor. It's like not bulky either. It's elven. It's sculpted to fit. Carries a fine blade and a fine bow. I know that Raw Dog must be good at fighting because he's got a huge two-handed sword.
Yeah,
and
chainmail.
Yeah, all chainmailed up.
A 10-foot pole, of course.
Yeah, and I think the only person with an actual 18 in any score, I think, ended up being MLS. She has like an 18 charisma. Yeah, everybody else's scores.
Yes, I'm quite.
Yeah,
charismatic.
we used pre-gens, and then they named them themselves. But everybody's scores were kind of good. I would say slightly above average across the board. You know, with a few good bonuses. We'll see how it goes. Well, during this conversation that you've had, again, you've been going up this narrow, rocky track that leads to the keep. It's just huge, 4 huge walls on top of a flattened mountain of rock that looks out over a broad forest land. And beyond that, there are some plains. But it's very high up. It commands the view of the Borderlands. The lands of the realm do not extend beyond this point. You know, no one really knows what's out there, except there are rumors of the caves of chaos and factions of different monsters lurking in the wilds. This is a real opportunity, you think, as you take one last look before you approach the gate of the keep. This offers a real opportunity to make your way in the world. You know, the Castellan, the lord of this keep, started off by coming out here and clearing off the land and gaining experience. Maybe you could yourselves be great lords someday. Who knows? But as you do approach the gate, there are 2 towers on either side of it. Then there are some blue-clad men-at-arms guards who are guarding the entrance. But they're standing slightly above you, of course. And all along the wall, you can see about a dozen curious faces peering down at you, all wearing this blue tabard of the guard here. But they are perhaps very eager to, welcome new champions of law and order. But they seem ready with pole arms and crossbows against anyone who might cause any trouble. And the guards shout down to you, "Who are you? Name your name and profession. First you, the big one."
Dudley Gruff, but please call me Raw Dog. I'm a fighter for hire, you could say.
And the wee one?
Ooh, my name's Cosmo, and yeah, I don't really have a profession, so to speak. I'm a professional. Well, I'm professional at hiding.
Unemployed, he says. And what about our elven friend?
My name is Emileth, and my profession is being fabulous.
Of course. The type of answer I'd expect from an elf. Well, in you come then. I assume you're here to make your mark on the world. You'll find very quickly that anyone who thinks they're going to get up to trouble here in the keep, you'll be quite mistaken. If you're willing to abide by the rules, then you're welcome. No open display of weapons in anger. We'll warn you of that right now. Are you willing to abide by that?
I can abide.
Oh yeah, of course. I don't intend to cause any problems at all.
I don't plan to cause any problems, but I shall defend myself if some ruffian tries to lay hands on me.
There's not that many ruffians here. Most ruffians that have come here, well, they've gone off to try to find the caves of chaos. We don't see too many of them come back. And they raise their portcullis and wave you in. And the first thing you see is another wall. There's good defensive strategy. You walk in, they're going to channel, you through several narrow apertures before they're going to let you out into the keep proper. You see a great stables on one side, and on the other side seems to be a big warehouse of some sort. And you're forced to turn left. There's the only way you can turn. And getting down to the end on the other side of the warehouse, you can turn right again. And off to your left, there's a row of small houses. They're really not houses. They're apartments built into a one-story building that's snuggled up against the wall of the keep. But things open up on your right. And you can see there's a tower, probably for a bailiff or something like that. It's obviously a private tower. But beyond that, there's a blacksmith, and you can hear the ringing of the hammers. And there's some armor hanging up on display in there as well. Some nice armor, some fine armor, and some different weapons too, like perhaps an armorer for when you make money someday, more of it, you can perhaps come here. There's also a provisioner's shop that you can see. It's quite clear that someone can buy dungeoneering equipment, exploration equipment, iron rations, bear traps, caltrops, 10-foot poles, large sacks, small sacks, all that sort of thing. And there's even a trader you can see where it says goods purchased, where you might be able to go get rid of some old things you don't need someday. There's a building with a sign of a balance on it, which you recognize as a loan bank, where if someone needed a little capital to equip themselves, perhaps they might be able to arrange a little loan with someone, although you never know. There is a man in chainmail with a longbow standing right out in front of that loan bank, by the way. It also seems to kind of operate as a pawn shop, because you see one guy walking out, shaking his head, holding an elephant tusk, as if he's been disappointed by the amount that he's been offered in there. And beyond that, you can see a watchtower, and then the road kind of opens up into what you might think of as a fountain square. Now you can see in to the largeness of the keep itself. And there's a few buildings here and some empty space, and beyond that, the wall of the inner keep. where the castellan would be. But here in front of a large gushing fountain in the center of the square is an inn. It says the Traveler's Inn right on it. It's a long, low structure. And right next to that is an attached tavern. This seems like a good place to get started, of course. But past that, you can see a guild house. You're not really a member of a guild, or don't know what that might entail. But and a chapel, which may interest you, because wherever there's a chapel, there's a priest, and priests are often able to cure you when you're ill or even injured. And so it is said that some priests of a sufficiently high level can even resurrect the dead. And that seems to be the keep on the Borderlands in a nutshell. People who live here obviously live in those private apartments, and there are one or two nicer private freestanding homes here. But those are the bullet points and the highlights of the keep on the Borderlands. Where would you like to go first?
I don't know about you guys, but I could use a good drink.
I don't really drink, but I'm not opposed to going and chumming it up with some of the locals.
I don't suppose you think they'll have elven wine in a place like this?
Well, you can only find out one way.
I shall see. It is the only thing good enough to touch my lips. Besides water.
All right.
That was really hard not to make a joke about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And when we first started playing D&D, we would have.
I got something to touch on.
Yeah. Yeah. Lots of opportunities for adolescent humor seem to pop up.
That's
another one. There's another one right there. In the world of Dungeons and Dragons. But you open the door and you walk in. There's not that many people in here. There is one fellow who looks like he must be a fairly well off. He's a little bit stout and wears a gold watch and a chain. There's two others in here who maybe look like they're out of work mercenaries or adventurers like you. They both got leather armor and their shields are propped up next to them. And then of course there's very quickly the proprietor of the place. He was wearing a floppy hat and has a rather thin face and thin upper body, but distinct spare tire all around the middle of him that is made worse by the bulging leather apron he wears. Welcome here to the welcome on in to the Traveler's Inn Tavern. I hope you'll visit the inn next door if you're looking for accommodations, but for right now you must be hungry. Would you like a seat by the fire? Oh, do come in. Always happy to get visitors here at the keep. My name is Perrin, and I'll be taking care of you this evening. Please come in. Here, and he sits you down at a small table by the fire. It's not like a big enough table, more like a little cocktail table, right? Like a little round table, and you guys have fairly comfortable, if wooden, chairs around it. There's this huge red dog who's asleep by the fire. He wakes up long enough to look at you and seems disinterested and goes back to sleep. So, I believe, would you like to start with a little beer? Or, sir, later on you'd like a roast fowl, I'm sure. Or perhaps a roast joint even. I bet you could eat quite a bit, couldn't you?
I sure could, yeah. Well, give me a beer to start off with.
All right, of course, now it's 1 silver piece for a beer. And there are 10 silvers and a gold, just so you know. Happy to take that. Okay, there you go. There's a nice beer. I think you'll enjoy that. Just a silver piece. What can I get for the rest of you? We do have some honey mead, which is very, very nice. There's some wine. Not elven wine, I'm afraid. I know that's what you're going to ask. Every elf who comes in here, it's the first thing they ask. We don't get too many. Not too many of the fair folk here.
Well, probably not, especially if word gets around that you don't even have elven wine. Why would elves
Well, if you
even
have
come
expensive
here?
tastes, might I recommend the honey mead?
It sounds second best. Yes, I would
It's a
take
gold
that.
piece. And it's good. It's about the best thing they make around here. But it's expensive. And what about you? What about you, small sir?
Oh, well, I'm not hungry, but have you got... Can I just get a lot of water?
Well, we usually prefer paying customers. Will you be eating later?
It depends on what you've got on the menu.
We got lovely pudding for a silver piece a bowl. There's some soup for a silver piece. We have a lovely stew for an electrum piece that you may enjoy. And of course, if you're very hungry, we can do up a nice roast fowl for a gold piece, or a roast joint for a gold piece. Of course, we have cheese and fruit as well.
He prefers sucking on his mother's tits, I think. Because he's a little boy.
This is a family establishment, sir.
So I apologise for my friend's profane nature, but yes, cheese and fruit would be very nice if I could.
Very lovely, very lovely. That's a silver piece for a wedge of cheese and a silver piece for the fruit bowl, which is mostly like honeydew melon with like one or two other things.
I will have the same.
Light
Fruit
eaters,
and
I see.
cheese,
What about you, big fellow?
What'd you say you got? Some meat.
No, that's right. We can get you a roast fowl or a roast joint of mutton. Which do you prefer?
Take the mutton.
All right. 2 gold pieces served. He goes over and rings a little bell. You know, like you got a nice, good customer. And just because you ordered the roast joint, he keeps you guys in small beer at least for the rest of the evening. If you need to quench your thirst or wash your food down later. But old Perrin hurries off to take care of that. One of those 2 fellows who are wearing leather armor, who had their shields propped up, one of them gets up. He's lanky. He's kind of got long black hair sticking to his face. He's a little greasy. He's got some sores on his face as if from some kind of sexually transmitted disease, around his lips. And it's so... New travelers here, eh? How are ya? He pulls a chair up and turns it backwards. He does a thing where he sits down on it, but it's backwards. He's leaning his arms up. He didn't even ask, by the way, if he could be seated. He goes, "I'm Nickel. Who are you?"
Ooh, Nickel, I thought your name was Herbie Hancock.
Oh.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's a good one. Nearly make me lose my appetite looking at you. Well, my name's Raw Dog.
Raw Dog, eh?
And I'm Cosmo.
Cosmo. What clan you from? You're not from that Harfoot clan, are you? Well, you better not be one of them buckle butters.
No, Lightfoot clan.
Lightfoot? All right.
Well, Lightfoot, Moonfoot, we're cousins.
Okay, all right then. Yeah. And I see we have one of the fair folk here.
Yes, I am fair. I'm going to make a big show of moving my chair further away from him.
Okay.
My name is Emeleth.
Emeleth, eh? Well, they say there's only a few reasons that elves come into the realm of men. One is they've been exiled. There's something wrong back home. Perhaps they's not the best and the brightest amongst the best and the brightest. And they come to lord it over us here. And there are others who say that there are some among the elves who enjoy relations with humans and are out to make a bunch of little half-elves.
Yeah.
So tell me,
that's
dearie,
the
which
one.
kind are you?
I am neither kind.
Yeah, you're the second one.
I'm very well respected in my homeland.
She's horny.
And
I got what you need.
nothing that is on you or your person will be coming in contact with me.
All right, leave her alone, you, says that man who looked like he might be a member of the merchant class earlier.
Maybe I will wear a cap on my willy then. If you don't want to be touched, yeah, solves that problem.
Well, before things go too far down that road, Emeleth has sufficiently high charisma that with the exception of Nickel, who was not such a bad guy really, everyone else in there is like, all right, Nickel, calm down, all right, and they try to steer things back. Leave her alone. So, says Nickel, I guess you're here to make your fame and fortune, eh? Of course they are, says the big merchant. I'm Fairman. He also invites himself to your table. Fairman, the merchant. They call me Fairman because I'm always fair. Isn't that right, Nickel? No, he only pays 50% value on returned goods and loot. I've done a bit of seeking fame and fortune myself. Sometimes it doesn't always work out as quickly as you think it will.
Yeah, that's nice. We was having a drink, just trying to enjoy ourselves.
Oh, yeah? Well, don't let me interrupt. But look, as I say, I've been on a foray or two of my own.
And so where have you been on these grand adventures that are enriching you?
I've been into the Caves of Chaos.
Have you now?
And lived to tell the tale. Yes, indeed I have.
Well, do tell the tale.
Well, I'm going to go back to the Caves of Chaos, so I'm not going to tell you exactly where I entered, but I will say this. There's not just one entrance, right? You walk in, meanwhile your food's being delivered and to the table, and you eat, and he keeps reaching out and taking tiny little bits of cheese or, without really being asked. And
if he touches my plate, I will be slapping his hand.
And he kind of he doesn't take offense at it, he just pulls it back and doesn't cry out, but then a few minutes later, he's still reaching back over and trying to get another piece or tear off a little chunk of the roast mutton and
eat like I'm in prison.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, right. You're gonna throw
lean over and put my arm around my plate.
Now, I'll say this, but several days away, it's not always easy to find, and there's a creek you follow to get there. Yes, but there's many different cave entrances. It's Caves of Chaos plural for a reason. You have your pick. You look into it. It's into a horseshoe-shaped valley, right? And on all the other sides of the horseshoe, except the opening, you see the hills rising up. Different levels, different cave mouths opening everywhere as you stand there in the bottom looking up. And of course, one would think that you go into the closest one, right? The closest one to the bottom. But no, what I did, I went up to the top. I went up and to the left. Let me repeat that. I went up and to the left. And that's where I went in. And I just went in for a few rooms. I didn't even have to fight anything. I was able to get a necklace before a minotaur even caught up to me. You don't know that it was a minotaur, says the other guy in leather with the shield. Anyway, well, if it wasn't a minotaur, it certainly looked like one in its silhouette. And I got it. So if you're smart, you play it right, you get in and out, no risk. Well, I think that, says Fairman, risk is important in any endeavor, If it were me, I would go right in. In fact, I have a cousin who I believe is imprisoned in those caves. His name's Davitt. And that's Davitt with a V, of course, and if he were ever to be returned, if he is still alive, well, I would pay a handsome reward for his return. I'll tell you that right now. If he's still alive. He's gone missing, it's been a month now. He went to those Caves of Chaos with a few adventurers who got him all whipped up. You'll notice the place is not exactly full of adventurers here in the tavern room.
Well, I got news for you. That Davitt, he's dead, probably. But how much if we find his head? Will you still pay us if we bring back his rotting head?
Well, I suppose that I would not put it so crudely. I suppose if his identifiable remains were to be returned so he could be interred properly, then I would be willing to offer a small consideration, yes. I'm always fair. That's why they call me Fairman. But don't forget that.
Are you going to be half fair or fully fair?
I'll be fully fair. In fact, I'll tell you, I hear all kinds of things coming in, and I'd be happy to tell you something useful I know. You want to hear?
Quite,
yeah,
yes.
As long as it's free, tell us.
Okay.
Yeah, well, free, but interesting, as long as it's interesting.
Oh, it will be interesting, I assure you. Now, just to break the third wall here, this old adventure had a rumor table in it, which I used to be fascinated with as a kid. And I literally want you to roll on the rumor table to see what rumor, if any, that you can learn about the area or the Caves of Chaos. Whoever would like to roll a d20, be my guest. Normally, if I was running a game, I'd probably just quietly roll the dice and give you one. But I want to point out this cute rumor table, which a lot of old D&D adventures had. They probably still do. Hell, all adventures probably still do. Well, what'd you roll?
16?
I can tell you this. There are some marshes on the way there, some marshlands. Stay out of them. Don't wander into the marshlands. They're infested with lizard men.
Well, I wasn't planning on traipsing through a marsh anyway.
Well, that's good. See that you don't. See that you don't. Well, says,
That was less of a rumor, more common sense.
well, I'm just telling you what I know and what I have heard, of course. But I'll tell you what I've had, says Nickel. Somebody else roll a d20.
2.
I said I got in and got out, right? That's because I heard there's sort of a coordinating presence of all the monsters in there. They're not all, there are many conflicting tribes of them, yes? But some say they're beginning to act more in concert, and there could be a very, very powerful magic user, or something like that. A great sorcerer, a black priest, behind it all. That's what they say. I don't believe that, but I've heard that. Yes. Well, says another from the background, I've heard that big dog men live in the upper caves. If you go in there, says the proprietor, just remember this. This is what one of the first men who came out of here told me. He went back to the realm. He got himself a good 100 gold pieces and decided to leave well enough below while he still had all his limbs. But he did fight some goblins and force them to surrender. So just remember this. Briark is goblin for I surrender. Briark is goblin for I surrender. Don't forget that.
Oh, I'm not gonna surrender to no goblins, so I don't need to learn that.
Yes, elves don't surrender, silly.
Well, now, I suppose you'll need a place to stay if you're going to go out and change the world and make your great fortune. So don't forget, right next door we have the Traveler's Inn.
Hey, Nickel.
Yeah.
You know those sores on your face? I was wondering if you could take a look. I got some of those down below, if you know what I mean. And I was just gonna.
He starts to pull down his pants.
You could just identify these sores here.
Again, there's a family establishment, like he says. He yells from the. Oh, piss off, says Nickel. And listen, stay out of the up and to the left part of the Caves of Chaos, all right? Because that's my territory. Me and Anselm over there. Yeah, but there's no Minotaur, that much. Don't worry about whether there's a Minotaur. There's a big monster up there. But that's our territory, right? We can work together. I'll help you with information, but you stay out of the upper left. Why don't you stay low and to the right? I think that might be easier for you.
Well, I guess the place is big enough. We don't have to go right to where you went, but
That's right. Treasure and riches for everybody, friends. As long as we work together and not against each other. There was a few who came in here worked against me and Ansel. They didn't last very long.
I see. So you are in the habit of disposing of those you deem your competition for treasure?
Let's just say my alignment might not align with yours.
I see.
That's right. Now, if you do want to get a room for the night, you can go next door to the inn. It's clean for a gold piece. They have 5 rooms available. for a gold piece, you can get your own private room. You guys want to turn in for the night, or is there any other place you want to visit here before you start your next day?
I think Dudley or Raw Dog will probably spend like his entire amount of gold that he has on beer the rest of the night.
Okay.
Except for leaving one or however much it was for a common room.
Yep. There's one. Well, there's one per a room, one gold piece to stay at the.
Okay.
So, well, yeah, Perrin loves you by the end of the night, and you're getting like preferred customer status. You know, he even makes Fairman move out of the best chair and pushes that over right by the fire. The dog comes and warms himself by your feet. You're treated as a number one customer, spending that kind of money in here.
Drink some Raw Dog.
Well, no, just for that, you're even extra popular. You pick up even a few more rumors. That you've heard there's a hermit who's off in the forest somewhere. They say beware of him, stay away from him. If you run into the hermit, go the other way. And then another person tells you that not only is there a merchant imprisoned in the caves, there's a fair maiden imprisoned in the caves as well. A beautiful woman imprisoned against her will in the caves for some dark purpose. These are the further rumors you hear as you spend the rest of your money, because a few other people, it gets a little blurry because you're drinking beer, but later after your friends go to bed, like a couple other people from the town show up, and you're going to see their stories you remember, when you wake up the next day.
Yeah, something about a fair hermit in the swamps. I'm going to have to go check that out.
Well, do you guys want to, you heard more or less how to get there. So you follow a creek. So it takes a couple days. Do you want to get started immediately, or do you want to do anything first? I know you've got decent equipment, I think, and you're not completely inexperienced. We didn't tell our listeners this. These are third-level characters. They're starting at third level just so they don't, die instantly.
Die in one shot.
Yeah.
From a crow.
Well, I think
guess that's Warhammer where that happens.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that while Raw Dog is drinking all the night away, I'm assuming Cosmo and Emeleth go back to the inn and just go to bed or whatever. But I'm imagining them in a common room or whatever, bunked up and trying to go to sleep, and Cosmos would be like, so do you think we should go up and to the left or down and to the right? Because I think he might have been lying. He might have been trying to get us to go down and to the right because that's where the bad stuff is, and there might be good stuff up and to the left.
Yes, I was also thinking that perhaps taking the opposite of his advice might be prudent.
And I don't think there's a Minotaur up there. I don't think there's a Minotaur anywhere. Well, there might be one somewhere, but not up there.
Probably not.
Well, we'll have to wait for Raw Dog and see what he thinks, but I think we should go up and to the left.
I kind of do too. I almost want to do it just to spite that sore mouth creep.
Yeah, you call him Mr. Blistermouth.
Mr. Blister. Oh, you are quite amusing, Cosmo. I do love your sense of humor.
It's so hard for me not to go, what the fuck? But I didn't.
Well, you two, lay awake at night talking for a while, and then eventually, Colin's character comes stumbling to bed. Raw Dog falls into a deep doggy sleep. And
yeah, he's kind of like the guy that he would just jumps right in, right on his belly, and falls asleep in less than a second.
Yeah.
So, Raw Dog, you want to go up and Oh, he's asleep already?
Well, all right. We'll, you guys wake up the next day and go ahead and mark off at least, two shilling or 2 silver pieces at least for breakfast. So and
A lot of money.
yeah, and we'll assume you head out into the wilderness, and we'll see what's out there. You're armed with some rumors, a little bit of information. You got a general idea about how long you want to go, and at least a couple of things that could happen to you on the way there. And,
Mr. Dog.
Yeah, what is it?
Cosmo and I were conversing last night, and we both are kind of thinking that perhaps we should go up and to the left.
You were conversing last night, huh?
Yes.
Yeah, scheming. What was you scheming about?
Well, we were just... That fellow with the mouth sores, he seemed mighty bent on keeping us from going up and to the left, and Cosmo thought it might be a bit of subterfuge, and I thought maybe perhaps that's where all the good stuff is, and it seems he got in and out of there without it being guarded. And I personally think that if he does show up and make a fuss, then perhaps we should eliminate our competition.
Yeah. Well, speaking of up and to the left, you should see. Just take a look. I know you always got your ear up and then your nose up in the air because you think you're so special. But if you took a look down below the waist, you might see something you like. But you was talking about not doing what he said. He said to go down and to the right, and I think we should do the opposite. I think we should always do the opposite of what people tell us. So I think we should go up and to the left, and that's probably where the good stuff is.
Excellent. I'm glad we are all of like mind.
Oh, I think we're all in agreement then. That's fantastic.
yeah, and in agreement, you leave through the portcullis, the keep of the Borderlands behind you, and under the morning sky on a crisp, cool day, you walk down the great rocky path that led up to the keep on the Borderlands, back down to the road, and then the road branches here and goes off into the Wilderland, just a path. And you take your first steps on that path. And next time we get together, we'll find out what you find. We'll talk to you then, everybody.
Hey everyone, if you like this podcast, consider leaving us a good rating and/or review, and subscribe to us wherever you can. We've got a YouTube channel and a Discord server, as well as merchandise available at TeePublic. Find our website at GooniesWorldPodcast.com. Email us at GooniesWorldPodcast@gmail.com. You can find all those links and more at linktree/GooniesWorld. Thanks for listening.